You may have seen crosshair placement on streamers like that, but that's going to be a lot better than trying to do this sort of thing where I'm trying to track him through the air the whole time like this. This is just not, this is bad aim, and this is what a lot of players do. If you set your crosshair in the right position and you do this, this is much more stable, much more smooth, and much more consistent to land good damage. Around this, down to the left, boom. Down to the right, boom. Today, I'm gonna teach you one of the most essential parts of aiming in Fortnite or any other shooter, and that is crosshair placement. Now, crosshair placement is overlooked so often by players. They have very good aim when they're just standing still, kind of static. They can track people, they can hit shots. But when they get into movement fights or their enemy's moving quick and they're moving quick, they struggle to hit shots consistently. And that is because they have poor crosshair placement. Now, crosshair placement goes hand in hand with peak shots, which I covered in the last Zero Build Mastery video. So if you haven't watched the Master Peak Shots video, you might want to check that out right after this one. So this video is going to be a follow along guide. You can just jump into the Zero Build Mastery course, map code above. That's the map I'm in here, and just follow along with me. Pause the video, practice the drills that I'm showing you, and you're going to get your crosshair placement and your aim to the next level. So let's get into it. We're going to go over to Aim Island after we pick out our own loadout. I've already got a loadout that I've saved. You can save your loadout with these buttons from the loadout room, and we're going to go over to Aim Island and Shockwave over here, and just play with these static bots. And I always recommend playing with static bots at first because it's gonna be a little bit easier to just learn the fundamentals. All right, so first things first, I just wanna show you kind of what I'm talking about, why crosshair placement matters so much. You may have seen crosshair placement on streamers like that. So you see that 140 damage as I'm flying through the air at 100 miles per hour. That is something that's never going to happen unless you know how to properly set up your crosshair. And that is why it's so important to master crosshair placement. Even doing movement like this in fights is going to require good crosshair placement to hit consistent shots when you're moving and your enemy's moving. So let's get straight into it. Let's start off with a little drill here, and we're going to go with just little right shoulder peeks. We're going to set up a bunker in front of one of these static bots, and we're just going to peek out and shoot. Peek out and shoot. Now you'll notice that I'm not even moving my crosshair when I do this. I have my crosshair to the left of the enemy because when I walk out, it just crosses them. The crosshair crosses them, and then you just pull the trigger. So this is a timing aspect. This makes your aim all about timing. You don't have to aim at all. You can have terrible aim, but if you have good crosshair placement, it makes little right shoulder peeks like this super easy. You're just gonna hit good shots, right? If your enemy's coming through a doorway and you're behind that door and you just line that up, you're not gonna miss these shots anymore, right? But if you have bad crosshair placement and you put it on your enemy, yes, you're probably gonna miss shots because you don't know what you're doing, and most players don't know how to properly set up their crosshair. And that's why we're showing you this. So there's no enemy movement right now, but we are accounting for our own. You can really only control your own movement. So you just gotta set up your crosshair to the left or the right of where your enemy is gonna be, depending on your own movement. If I'm moving to the left, I'm gonna set up my crosshair to the right of the enemy. That way I can just walk over and pull the trigger as I move to the left. If the enemy is on the right, I'm gonna set up my crosshair to the left, walk out and pull the trigger when it crosses them. That's the gist of it, right? It's very simple. So sit behind this bunker and do right shoulder peeks. If you don't know how to do this, I covered that in my last video, the Mastering the Peak Shot video. And now what I want you to do is practice some jump shots with the bunker. Now I want you to get on the ramp and notice how things change at the different elevations. So if I'm right here at the top of this ramp and I'm aiming at this guy and I jump up and I try to hit him, it's not happening. So what I need to do instead is aim way lower. And now I found the spot, and now I just repeat that same move, right? If I go lower down, I'm gonna aim more like this. And just practice this, right? And as you move around, you're gonna have to account for that aim a little bit more. You back up, and then you need to account for that aim. So get your crosshair placement down. If you know where an enemy is, right? Like, oh, okay, he's right there. You just need to start adjusting your crosshair so that when you jump, you account for your own movement. You're aiming low, and then pulling the trigger as it rises over your enemy. Okay, now we're gonna move to slide shots. Slide shots are super important. Pretty much all combat movement really is kind of based around slide shooting, because in the air, if you're jumping around in the air like this, it's very easy to track somebody who's on a set trajectory through the air. But if you're sliding, you're a lot harder to hit. If you're moving instantly, you can stop on a dime, you can crouch, you can change directions like this, and it's very hard to hit somebody who's sliding around and using good sliding movement. So I always recommend slide movement over jump movement because the jump movement is very easy to track. Now, mixing those two is obviously very, very good, And coming around corners jumping is pretty good if you can catch your enemy off guard, especially if you can camera break them, you know, by doing something like this. That's really good because then they have to turn around and find you. But apart from that, sliding is really, really strong. So I want you to get your crosshair in the right place, and you're gonna have to aim quite a bit over to the left. As you slide out, you need to look in the direction that you want to run, first of all, and then you need to whip your crosshair over far to the left of the enemy, and then allow it to slide past, cross your enemy, and then just pull the trigger, like that. Aim neck level for a good precision headshot, and aim down sights. Always be aiming down sights when you're sliding, in most cases at medium range, because you want to get that nice precision damage, especially with the Wrecker revolver, which is like, you know, exponentially better when you're aiming down sights precision wise. So just do this a few times, or I mean, do it for 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it takes in order to get this one move down. This is a very important move because you're going to be coming around cover a lot like this, and just, you need to land a good shot. It's also going to happen a lot when you start shockwaving towards people and you land into a slide and you need to hit a good shot like this. You just line up that crosshair in the right spot and then pull the trigger when it covers them. Like that. This is only 27, but still, you get the idea, right? Aim to the right, aiming to the right, let the crosshair come over the enemy, aiming to the right. This is like slowed down so you can really see what I'm doing. And I'm jumping into slides. If you want to learn how to do this kind of combat movement, I'm going to be covering that in another mastery video called striking movement. So look out for that one. But for now, we're just practicing sliding and shooting and putting that crosshair where it needs to go in order to hit these shots. All right, I trust that you've pretty much mastered that. The next area we're going to go to is uneven 1v1 in the Zero Build mastery area, and this is on Aim Island as well. So we go over to uneven 1v1, and we've got this enemy in here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off double speed. I'm gonna keep him at 250 HP because that'll be kind of realistic. And what I want you to do is go for these jump shots now with sliding and jump shots. We've got his uneven terrain here, so it makes it actually really hard to track this guy. If you were to just try to keep up with him with your aim, you know, it's pretty tricky. So instead, what you want to do is get some nice elevation off the ground, and that allows your aim to be a little bit easier because you're kind of like floating and aiming downwards. You have some nice height, and just set up that crosshair so that it's going to land on the player. You notice that I'm kind of just smoothly tracking, setting up the crosshair roughly where it needs to be. You know, if he's over here to my right, I'm going to aim to the left, I'm going to aim down, and then I'm going to just pull the trigger as it crosses him. I jump into the air, pull the trigger as it crosses him. Jump into the air, pull the trigger as it crosses him. And yeah, I do need to whip around sometimes if I don't get it perfect or if he moves a lot, but that's going to be a lot better than trying to do this sort of thing where I'm trying to track him through the air the whole time. Like this. This is just not, this is bad aim, and this is what a lot of players do. They kind of like try to dynamically track somebody in combat doing this sort of thing and flicking around, and you can just see how erratic and how like kind of random this aim looks. Whereas if you set your crosshair in the right position and you do this, this is much more stable, much more smooth, and much more consistent to land good damage. Even if I'm camera breaking him and jumping over his head, it's the same deal. If I get the crosshair in the right spot, all I have to do is move my body to be in the right area, and I'm just hitting good, consistent damage. All right, so go ahead and practice in here for a little bit. The next area that I would say to go to is going to be combat movement versus bots. And this is the last thing I would say finish up with, and this is gonna take things kind of the next level with that combat movement. I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna turn on the bots, and then I'm going to turn on half bots just so that there's not too many. Then I'm going to go over into this area right here. And I'm going to be sliding through these halls. I'm going to try to slide at like 90 degrees and line up good shots with these little windows so I get good damage as I slide across. This is going to be building off of that thing that we covered earlier, and it's going to be covering the jump shots too. So now we're coming around cover, little camera break action, and we go for a jump shot, just like that. We come around at this cover, and look where we're aiming. We're aiming down right here. If this guy's over here and I'm going to the right, I'm going to be aiming down to the left. Check this out. I'm going to push him around this, down to the left, down to the left, boom. Down to the right, boom. Because when I jump up, my crosshair rises, and I need to get it over the enemy like this. Okay, now we're going through these pillars and trying to aim down sights and land shots. We're trying to smooth track one spot too. If we're looking at this little like window right here where this guy is right now, watch how we smooth track this window right here. We kind of need to get our crosshair on this and then track that spot. As we see roughly where they are, we're trying to put our crosshair there and just keep it there. So if they think you're coming through this door, that's where I want to track. And that takes a little bit of smooth tracking, which is what we're going to cover next in the next mastery video, which is smooth tracking aim. So yeah, play around in here and go ahead and just look for these little shots, go through doorways and try to land good damage. Now this is going to be tricky. If you're really struggling with this, go ahead and turn the AI off, turn off all the bots just like this, and then just practice keeping your crosshair in the middle of a doorway. As you come across, put it in the middle of the doorway, roughly head height. These windows as well. So if you come across a window like this, you see this window right here, this is what I'm going to be aiming for. I'm going to be aiming the middle of it like this. Get my crosshair roughly in the middle of it at head level. So if somebody walks in this hallway, they're going to get shot in the head. Now, if somebody's in this courtyard, I need to aim a little bit lower, right? I need to aim more like this. And that's a pretty big distinction depending on how far they are, where you need to put that crosshair. And just kind of picture in your head where people could be and then practice kind of tracking that spot as you move across. You know, you can even put a pin down like if you want like this and just try to smoothly track that marker as you move left and right so that when you cross it with a crosshair, you hit the shot. All right, guys, I hope that video was helpful. If it was, please leave a like on it and let's go into smooth tracking aim. Shinobi out.